The docking bay of orbital station Calypso shimmered under the glow of twin moons. Captain Eli Mercer adjusted his collar as he stood among a row of Earth officers, all lined up to greet the delegation from the royal court of Velari Prime. It wasn't a usual visit. This time, the princess herself was stepping foot onto a human ship, something no Valerian royal had ever done. Eli wasn't supposed to be here. He wasn't the top-ranking officer. He wasn't fluent in Valerian protocols. But fate or politics had decided otherwise. Apparently, the princess had seen a recent Earth documentary and requested Eli by name. Why? No one knew. When she finally stepped through the shimmering veil of the docking gate, the air seemed to pause. She was tall, elegant, and inhumanly graceful. Her skin was iridescent, shifting shades between gold and lilac, and her eyes glowed, faintly like twin galaxies. Unlike the stone-faced diplomats behind her, she smiled. "I am Princess Alari of House Varel," she said in near-perfect English. "I have studied your customs. I find them fascinating." Then she turned her eyes to Eli. "And you will be my liaison." Eli blinked. "Yes, Your Highness. Welcome to Earth space." The days that followed were filled with guided tours, presentations, and cultural exchanges. Alari showed genuine curiosity, not the cold, analytical interest most aliens gave humans, but something more. She asked about poetry, music, street food, and laughter. One afternoon, while watching Earth birds through a transparent dome, she turned to him and asked, "What is bonding?" Not as a political tool, but the human kind. Eli scratched the back of his neck. "You mean relationships?" "Yes. Emotional connection, love, mating rituals." His face turned red. "That's a complicated subject." "I desire to understand," she said simply. "Your people tie emotion to physical unity. It is not so on my world." Later that evening, as they walked past the Earth Biosphere Garden, she stopped suddenly and looked at him seriously. "I have chosen you," Eli frowned. "For what? To learn. To experience what your kind calls love." He froze. "Wait, you're asking too? What? Date me?" She tilted her head. "If that is your word for it, yes." Eli almost laughed. "From shock, your royalty. I'm just a fleet captain." "I am also a scholar," she replied. "And scholars must follow curiosity." He didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to say, "No, too strange, too fast." But another part remembered her fascination, her wonder at even the most mundane things, the way she listened, the way she looked at him like he mattered. "I guess we could try a human-style date," he offered, her face lit up in color. "Then I accept your terms." And just like that, the future changed. The restaurant Eli chose was quiet, tucked into the upper ring of Calypso Station, with a view of Saturn through the domed window. He thought the colors of the swirling gas giant might impress her. But the moment Princess Alari entered, everyone else in the room stopped to stare. She wore something inspired by human fashion-flowing silk fabric, but embedded with faintly glowing threads that pulsed gently with her skin. Her iridescent face turned slightly pink when she noticed the attention, but she didn't shy away. She walked straight to Eli and gave him the smallest of nods, a greeting, a signal that tonight was different. "I have reviewed over 200 hours of human romantic media," she said as they sat. "There is much variation. I attempted to dress accordingly." Eli chuckled. "You nailed it. Honestly, you might have overdressed. Most of us settle for jeans." I considered jeans. They seemed unnecessarily tight. He nearly choked on his water. Yeah, fair point. A waiter approached nervous young, clearly trying not to gawk. Alari ordered nothing, but asked questions about every item. What is mozzarella stick? Why is it fried? When Eli explained, she simply said, humans cook things to make them taste worse and yet enjoy them more. Curious. As the evening unfolded, something strange happened. The stares faded. The awkwardness faded. They laughed. Not just polite laughter, but genuine, belly-deep laughter. When Alari made her first attempt at a human joke, something about how her species doesn't cry, only flickers, Eli found himself nearly falling out of his chair. Between bites of pasta and odd observations about how humans mix meat and cheese, they drifted into deeper conversation. She asked about his childhood, what fear felt like, what love meant to a species who died so easily and loved so fiercely. He asked about her people's bondless courtships, how emotion was treated more like an illness than a treasure. She spoke, honestly, thoughtfully, on Valari, attachment clouds judgment, but judgment alone makes life colorless. When the music changed, she stood. Is this the dancing segment of the ritual? Eli stood slowly, awkwardly. Well, kind of. But dancing is optional. I wish to try. They moved toward the small floor where a soft rhythm played. Eli placed a hand on her side, solid, yet strangely warm, and she mirrored his motions perfectly, studying him like she was mapping every heartbeat. It wasn't really dancing, more like swaying. But she smiled. That soft, vulnerable smile that wasn't royal or rehearsed, just real. Afterward, he walked her back to the guest chambers the station had assigned. The corridor was quiet, lit only by blue ceiling glows and the ambient hum of distant engines. Neither of them spoke for a while. He wasn't sure how to end a date with a princess from another world. She stopped in front of her door. You did not attempt to kiss me. Eli blinked. I didn't think I should. You're royalty. She raised a hand gently. Was not displeased, only noting the statistical expectation. In 67% of human romances, the first bonding encounter ends with physical affection. Yeah, well, I'm in the 33% that prefers to ask. She looked up at him, her glowing eyes. Soft, may I? He leaned in, heart pounding like a drum in his chest. Their lips didn't quite meet. She didn't have lips. Not like his butt, something passed between them. Warmth, light. A breath that wasn't quite a kiss, but somehow felt more than one. When she pulled back, she said quietly, I believe. I like this research. Eli whispered, yeah, me too. Then her door slid open, and she vanished inside, leaving him alone in the hallway, blinking at the stars beyond the glass. He wasn't sure what just happened, but it wasn't just diplomacy. Anymore, it was something else, something beginning. The following morning, Eli expected silence, maybe a return to protocol, maybe even a brush-off. Instead, a message lit up on his wristpad just after sunrise. I have analyzed the evening. I wish to replicate its variables. Shall we attempt a second date? Princess Alarelli couldn't help but smile. Their second outing wasn't a quiet dinner. Instead, he took her to the Earth Cultural Exhibit on Calypso's lower deck. Wasn't glamorous just old Earth instruments, paintings, and history clips playing on loop. But Alari was fascinated. This instrument, she said, gently tapping an old violin sealed in glass. It sings from tension. You pull strings. across its body and create sound. That's music for you, Eli said. A little pressure in the right places creates something beautiful. She turned to him, her face glowing faintly. That describes your species well. They sat on a bench by a fountain playing ancient earth audio. Couples passed by, some noticing them, others too wrapped up in each other to care. Eli thought the moment was peaceful, maybe even perfect, but peace never lasted long on the station. That afternoon, Alari received a message from her ship's envoy, a direct summons. The Valari Council had been monitoring her activities, her emotional shifts, her interactions with humans. They were concerned. You are displaying patterns of deviation, the message said coldly. The royal image must remain clear. Return for recalibration and emotional dampening. Alari stared at the message, her glow turning storm grey. They believe I've become infected with irrational human sentiment. Eli stood beside her. What happens if you ignore the summons? I risk being exiled, stripped of my titles, cut off from the Valari core. He clenched his fists. Because you wanted to. Understand us, because I chose a human. Her voice was soft but steady. And that is not permitted. He looked at her, then really looked. This wasn't a curiosity for her anymore. She hadn't just picked him to learn. She had stayed, again and again, asked questions no one else dared to ask, danced when she didn't know how, tried to laugh when her world called emotion a flaw. She had chosen this, chosen him. What are you going to do? He asked. Alari turned toward the viewport. I don't know. My people believe emotion weakens our crystalline form. But I don't feel weak. I feel aware and alive. Later that day, he found her in the garden dome, tracing her fingers over the petals of a synthetic rose. She didn't look up as he approached. If you go, he said quietly, don't let them erase what you found. She turned to him. Then, come with me. What? To Valari Prime. Be my advocate. Let them see you not as a threat, but as proof that humanity does not corrupt. It connects. Eli laughed nervously. Me, on your homeworld. If I stand alone, they'll silence me. If you stand beside me, they might pause. He paced for a moment. You know they could imprison me, right? I'm not royalty. I'm barely diplomatic. You are the reason I feel, she said simply. If they erase that, they erase what makes me real. He looked at her glowing softly in twilight light, surrounded by flowers she didn't need but loved anyway. And he knew the answer before he said it. I'm in. 3 days later, they boarded a Valari Star Spindella transport that shimmered like a living gem. No windows, no sound, just pulsing corridors of light. Eli didn't like it. He missed the hum of engines, the smell of metal, the comfort of human machines. Alari stayed beside him the entire journey. She didn't speak often, but her hand never left his. When they arrived at Valari Prime, the surface sparkled like glass under a sunless sky. The atmosphere shimmered with static light. There were no cities-only spires, no color-only cold. Brilliance. They were escorted to the Chamber of Harmony, where 6 Valari elders awaited them, glowing a sterile white. Princess Alari once spoke. You have deviated. I have evolved, she replied. Their light pulsed. Your emotions. Cloud judgment. They illuminate understanding. Then they turned to Eli. You are the anomaly. He stepped forward. I'm human, he said. Messy, emotional, imperfect. But she saw something in us worth feeling. Maybe you should too. A long silence passed. Then one elder said, "If emotion breaks her core, it will be your burden." Eli nodded. "Then I'll carry it." Beside him, Alari's glow shifted. Rose, gold, violet, no longer in control, but beautifully, perfectly alive. The council did not agree, but they didn't stop her either, and that was enough. The moment Alari and Eli returned to Calypso Station, it was clear everything had changed. The media had caught wind of the Valari Council meeting. News feeds exploded with speculation. Was the Valari princess romantically involved with a human? Had Earth influenced alien royalty? Was this the beginning of an interspecies alliance or something more dangerous? When they stepped off the transport, they were swarmed. Cameras hovered. Reporters shouted questions. Some smiled with curiosity, others with contempt. A voice called out from the crowd, "Are you mating with a human to gain political power?" Alari didn't flinch. "No," she replied calmly. "I chose him because he made me feel something I had never known before, and that was all it took." The story went viral. Some people cheered. Others were horrified. Within hours, Eli was called to a private meeting with Director Kren of Earth Relations. The man looked tired, worn thin by pressure. "You've put us in a difficult position," Kren said. "Some human groups see your relationship as a symbol of progress. Others see it as betrayal." Eli crossed his arms. "Because I care about someone not from Earth, because it's too public, too fast, too real, you need to lay low." Eli leaned forward. "You think hiding love makes it easier for people to accept?" "No," Kren replied quietly, "but it keeps them from burning the building down." That night, Eli told Alari what had happened. She listened silently, her glow dimming. "They want us to pretend we're nothing," he said, "at least until people calm down." She looked at him carefully. "Would pretending make it easier for you?" "No," he said immediately, "but I'm scared, not of us of what they'll do to you. To both of us." She stepped closer. "I am not afraid, not anymore." A moment passed between them, quiet, fragile, unshakable. Then the protests began. Groups calling themselves Earth First gathered outside spaceports and embassies. They held signs that read, "Keep Earth, human and alien romance is treason." They hacked broadcasts, painted over murals. They sent death threats to both Alari and Eli. One night, a rock shattered the outer window of the Valari guest wing. Another night, someone tried to cut power to the station's oxygen recycling. Security was tripled. But so was the tension. Eli paced constantly, slept rarely, kept a hand on his sidearm even in the shower. Alari, by contrast, remained eerily calm, not because she didn't understand the threat, but because she refused to be ruled by it. Fear, she told him, is a signal, not a command. They still met in secret gardens, in private cafes, in locked simulation chambers that played Earth music and Valari lightscapes. And every time they met, their bond deepened, but pressure kept building. Eventually, the Earth Council summoned them both for a formal address. It was supposed to be a private mediation. It turned into a political theater. A high-ranking official named Admiral Vosk stared at them from behind a long glass table. "This situation," she said flatly, "has grown beyond the two of you. Do you understand that?" Eli nodded. "Yes." "Ma'am," Alari tilted her head. "But it began with the two of us." Vosk's eyes narrowed. "The Valari are not an emotional people. Now, suddenly, their princess glows pink on Earth. This could be seen as infiltration. I am not infiltrating, Alari replied calmly. I am loving. Eli stared at her, openly, proudly, and for the first time in days, he smiled. But Vosk didn't. You have two choices, she said. Step away from each other and let this pass, or go public. Make your case, and risk everything. Alari turned to Eli. If we go public, there will be danger. He met her gaze. But if we don't, we'll be lying to ourselves. She nodded once. Then we show them. 2 days later, they stood on the main broadcast stage of the Unity Conference. The world watched. The stars listened. And a human and an alien stood together, not as soldier and princess, not as symbols, but as something far more powerful, two souls that refused to break. The Unity Conference Hall was built to hold 12,000 delegates. That day, nearly 20,000 tuned in live across Earth, Valari Prime, and dozens of neutral systems. It was more than a press event. It was a test. Eli stood in front of the podium in his Earth Space Alliance uniform, heart pounding. Princess Alari stood beside him, draped in a flowing veil of soft, color-shifting crystal that shimmered with her every breath. Her glow was steady, calm, pink with hints of sunrise gold, emotion, serenity, defiance. The lights dimmed. The room hushed. Eli spoke first. I'm not a diplomat. I'm not even a great speaker. I'm just a human who fell for someone who sees the world completely differently, made me want to see it through her eyes. He paused. No scripts, no comes, just truth. I didn't set out to fall in love with an alien, but it happened, not because of politics or strategy or curiosity, because she listened, because she asked questions no one else ever dared, because when she looked at me, I didn't feel small, I felt seen. Murmurs ran through the crowd, some skeptical, some softened. Then Alari stepped forward. I was born to inherit silence. The Valari teach that feeling is chaos, that emotion fractures logic, that love is a danger. But when I met him, I felt chaos, and it did not destroy me. It awakened me. She let her colors ripple openly across her body shades of vulnerability, strength, wonder. Humans are not perfect, but they love as if it is survival itself. I came to study you. Instead, I changed because of you. And I do not wish to go back. Cameras flashed. Voices whispered, and then dash clapping. It started slow, a ripple, then more. Then standing by the time they left the stage, the noise was thunder. Not universal approval, but undeniable attention. 3 days later, things escalated again. Earth first released a statement calling their bond a biological contamination. They vowed to reclaim human purity. That same night, a bomb was discovered beneath the Valari embassy, disarmed in time but close. Too close. Eli sat with Alari in the observation dome, watching Earth rotate below them. She held his hand, glowed faintly with grief. They will not stop, she said. Not all of them. No, he agreed. But we don't have to stop. Either. A quiet passed between them. Then, from behind, came footsteps. It was Director Vasque. She stood silently for a moment, then said, "You've created something bigger than both your species." Eli braced for another warning. "Instead," she said, "the Council voted this morning. Valari and Earth will begin an emotional integration study. Your relationship will be the model." Alari tilted her head. "You wish to study us? Not as an experiment, Vosk said, as a bridge. And just like that, the world turned again. Months passed. Alari and Eli remained together, not just as symbols, but as real, living proof that love didn't care about borders or biology. They traveled to embassies, schools, interstellar councils. They shared stories, not stats. They showed laughter. They showed struggle. And people listened. Not all approved. Not all understood. But many began to hope. One quiet evening, Eli and Alari returned to the same rooftop restaurant where their first human-style date took place. The stars above Calypso Station burned softly. Below them, Earth shimmered. He took out a small box. Inside was a ring made of Velary crystal fused with Earth-forged titanium. He didn't kneel. He just held it out, hand steady, voice quiet. "Do you want this forever?" Alari blinked. Forever is a construct of perception. He smiled, that a yes. She leaned forward, touched her forehead to his. The Velari sign of eternal bond, yes. And somewhere between galaxies and gravity, a love born of questions became a truth no one could deny. One love. Two worlds. No limits. The end.